Dr. Big Ed here again, your pedal shrink. So, when we met last time, we were talking about deluxe memory mans and some other stuff. I'm not kidding you, within an hour of making that video, a deluxe memory man, big box, analog man, modified, shows up on Reverb. I'm not kidding. $700, gone like that. Again, I don't know. But, so let's talk about a few things. Well, one of the things I want to start this session about, because I am a doctor, is internet forums. And it's one of the reasons I thought that starting this type of give and take with you all would be useful. Here's my feeling about internet forums. First of all, they can be helpful, but for the most part, they're not. And there's three reasons. First of all, the obvious, most of the time people are anonymous, and you can't expect people to behave themselves in a adult fashion anonymously. Not everybody, but a lot of people are just jackasses. Okay, so that's, I think, not helpful, actually, for a forum. Not just for the mere action of being civil, but you don't know what people's motivations are. You don't know if they're being paid. You don't know if it's a builder with another identity or a distributor or a friend of some, who knows? So that's number one. Number two, the other reason I don't like internet forums and why I decided to start doing this so that we can interact directly and discuss things and maybe I can get you some answers, is it seems rather capricious and random the way some of these forums are moderated. They'll censor certain things but not other things, and maybe they're using some algorithms to do so, but in some cases it seems like they're actually personally involved in monitoring these things, and it just, I don't know, it just seems to me to be not entirely equal. Let's put it that way, in the way these things are being moderated. Just seems that way to me. So that makes it a little unfair. And number three, and this might be the biggest issue, is, come on, let's admit it. We're all trying to justify spending money on gear, right? Like you spend money. Some of us do a lot of research. Talked about that last time. We'll talk about it more in the future, but we spend a lot of time checking into things and figuring things out. A lot of internet forums are people just justifying the money they've already spent, right? It's true. So those are the three reasons that I feel you're not always getting good value from that. Now, myself, a lot of my friends, I've been doing this 30 years. A lot of my friends are really amazing professional musicians. I would say that of my friends that are live and studio players, we're, I don't know, I mean, it's like, let's just be honest, if you have a day job, which I highly recommend anybody getting into music, if you get a day job, keep it. Seriously, this isn't all it's cracked up to be. Not anymore, anyway. Not like it used to be. But if you have a day job, you don't have the time to do a lot of the things that we do 24 hours a day, every day. Right? I can sit here all day and I can play with combinations of pedals and amps and orders and how, mic angles and different, we have the time to do that. So it's another reason I started this, is that if myself and my friends have anything we can offer, you have any questions about anything that I can't answer, I'll call on my pals and get them to get you the answer. So that leads me to my next thing. So let's talk about reverb, okay? I'm obsessed with reverb, particularly the last year or so. If you're just looking for a standard reverb, a plate, a spring, a room, you don't need to spend a lot of money. The TC Electronic Hall of Fame's fantastic. Another great deal that really does sound great is the Digitech Obscura. I think that's what it's called, right? The Obscura is the reverb, and the other one is the delay. Anyway, oh no, the Pandora, whatever the reverb is, the Obscura is the delay of Digitech, but there's what is it called? The Pandora, or that inexpensive reverb pedal by Digitech that came out in the last 3 or 4 years. I'm trying to remember the name of it. Anyway, you know what I'm talking about. So that and the TC Electronic Hall of Fame, if you're looking for standard reverbs, fantastic. The Alexander Sky 5000, it's a little up above that, I would say, about just merely because of what it offers, because that's a delay and a reverb. It's got octave down, octave up, secondary functions that you can program in. So I would highly recommend, as a step above that, would be the Alexander Sky 5000. There are a few others, but if you're just looking for a basic, decent reverb, Hall of Fame and the Digitech are flipping fantastic. Probably both under $100, right? But that's if you're looking for a realistic space reverb, meaning, you're looking for a room or a hall, something like that. I consider spring and plate part of space, but you know what I mean, like classic reverbs. However, in the last couple of years, that hasn't really interested me that much. And it's been quite a little battle for me to find what I was hearing in my head. I'm sure you all go through this, right? Okay, so what did I learn? Well, what I learned is this. So there's these two highly touted reverbs that everybody seems to really love. And this is where the experience of playing every day comes in. Not that there's anything better or different about being a full-time musician over someone who can just do it when they can. It's not. It's just that we can do it all day, and sometimes you discover things because of the amount of time. And sometimes the situations, like if you're recording a lot or playing a lot of gigs. So there's these two reverbs that everybody was flipping out over. And I got them both, right? In the last 5 years, I got them one at a time. Spent, I'm not kidding, a week programming both of them, going through each little thing. I mean, one of them has an app, the other one doesn't. You had to do it all manually, but these are highly touted, highly regarded reverbs. Spent about a week each time with each pedal. And I don't have them anymore. And here's why. And this is where my previous point comes in. They sounded like crap recorded. They sounded amazing in the room. Really, they blew me. Wow, that sounds really good. Wow, that's cool. Not recorded. They sounded horrible. I mean, even the settings that were copying spaces sounded fake. The way it blended with the rest of the signal was kind of, it wasn't really, it didn't have the depth and it wasn't three-dimensional, but it was more about depth, and it was more about how it's, it doesn't matter where the mix was. No, it's not about mix. They just didn't record well. It'd be interesting to go deeper into that and find out why. So that led me to go, okay, well, what really does it, right? What matters about this? So I went on this journey that I'm trying to help you avoid, to find if you're like that, what are you looking for? Well, I'm not looking for a real space. To me, there's nothing real about pedal reverbs. There can be, but that's just not what I'm interested in. I'm not trying to achieve that, right? I'm not trying to recreate a space. I have so many amazing plug-in reverbs that are super duper great, that if that's what I was trying to recreate, I would just not use a reverb on my pedal board and just record in and add the reverb later. But I'm trying to, to me, it's not about being real. It's about creating something that isn't there. It's about creating a new realm, if you will. I know it sounds highfalutin, but that's what I'm getting at. It's like a new dimension, and the way it interacts with everything before it, right? And how that creates and encompasses the sound that I'm trying to put forward, the touch and the frequencies. So that led me on quite a journey, and that journey has been pretty interesting. Before I go any further, one other reverb I want to really recommend that's super cheap, and don't discount this one. If you take your time with this one and program it, which, by the way, because it also has an app, it did not take me as long as the other ones to get where I wanted to go, is the Zoom. It's the Zoom MS70 CDR. And what I would recommend with that is using an EQ after the reverb and using delays. You'll run out of CPU at some point. I think I can get 4 or 5 things going. Certain delays and certain reverbs use more DSP, but CPU power. But try delay before and after and EQ after the reverb with the MS70 CDR. So anyway, so where did I end up with? So these are the reverbs that I'm using that really kind of do something for me, and I feel are different. They're not trying to be realistic. Again, I'm not interested in realistic. I'm interested in new frontiers. And I'm sure a lot of you are too, or you wouldn't be watching this. So, number 1 is the Pladask Elektrisk Drum. Amazing, because it's got a texture control that kind of adds some grit, which I find really cool and really useful for the way it sits in a mix, whether it's pre or post. But sometimes I'll get to this, but I like running reverb into dirt. It's really cool because it kind of grits it up and makes it sit better. It's just for me. So the Pladask Elektrisk, it has modulation. It has AM and FM modulation. It has a clock, so you can turn it down the clock to get gritty, crazy kind of dimensions from it. It's got a lot. It's really cool, and it's very unique. It's got a hall, a metal, which is kind of unlike anything I've really heard. And I tend to use the metal with the gate on and lots of texture, little bit of modulation, and the clock at about 11 o'clock, which is pretty low. So that's number one, Plodask Electric Drum. My second is the, what's his name again? It's the Atmosphere by, what is this called again? Anyway, you know, Dr. Scientist, whatever his name is, the Atmosphere reverb. It's amazing. Why? Because you don't even need an app for the Atmosphere. You just get in there and you can do all these secondary functions, tweak it, filters, modulations, you name it, tails, everything, and you can save them as presets. So you have presets, which I really, really dig about that as well. So the Dr. Scientist, I think that's what he's called. Anyway, the Atmosphere. Obviously, this is not a paid promotion. So the Dr. Scientist Atmosphere, the Red Panda Context 2. Reason I like the Context 2 is, so my favorites on the Context 2 are the Cathedral, which really doesn't sound like the Cathedral, but that's good. It's it's kind of got its own thing going on. It's not like if you walked into a real cathedral and that's what it sounds like. I also like the Granular. The Spring, which you don't, it's not what you would expect from a regular Spring. It's not. I generally don't like Spring reverb pedals, most of them. Not all of them, but most of them. This one really surprised me. It's got a bunch of secondary functions. Awesome. It sounds good in a mix. It just sits there beautifully. They've already come out with one update, and the pedal's only been available for a week. There's already a firmware update. And more importantly, so you can do presets, right? But for me, I'll only have it on for like one particular sound, but it allowed me to get rid of my tremolo pedal off and save some pedal board space. Why? Because the Spring setting has, if you turn the modulation on, it's tremolo. So with all the secondary functions, meaning that you can make it into an expanding reverb, so when it gets past a certain level, it expands. You can have it be a damping reverb. You can have the blend of the delay. Oh, right, and that one has delay and reverb as well. You can have the blend of the delay. You can have all these, a ton of secondary functions. That's what it has in common with the Atmosphere by Dr. Scientist. I gotta figure it out. Anyway, so the Context 2 from Red Panda, like triple thumbs up. And then the last one I would mention, which again, this is another new one that has nothing to do with a real reverb. It's more about if you're trying to create new realms, if you will, and that is the Death by Audio Room. That's one crazy ass reverb. And it doesn't really sound like a room, none of the choices do. And it's really cool because it's got a secondary thing too. So you can have all the main functions of time, delay, whatever, depth, depending on the on what setting you're on. And then boom, you hit the secondary switch and it flips over to a completely different setting. So I really, really like that. And all of these pedals, miraculously, not the previously highly touted ones I was talking about, they all record beautifully. I record every day. It's all I do. I'm in the studio every day, or I'm out on the road playing. I'm always recording. If we're playing live, I'm making sure everything gets recorded. So I know from whence I speak. Remember, I'm a doctor. And all four of these, the Death by Audio room, the Red Panda Context 2, the Atmosphere, the Atmosphere, the Dr. Scientist Atmosphere, and the Pladask Electris Drum, all record beautifully. Now, that's not to say there aren't other reverbs that record beautifully. To get back to Springs for a second, and I'll just wrap this up, and we'll talk more next time, because your time is almost up. You know what really records beautifully and is not too expensive and has an app to go with it and is really versatile is that spring reverb from Source Audio. Can't remember the name of it, but it's really flippin' fantastic. Seriously, I've recorded with it, and that sounds amazing recorded. So the point being, so I'm giving you a little insight on what I use and what I've learned, but how something sounds in the room when you're messing with it versus how it sounds when it records are often two different things. This is why we're here to talk about these things, save you some money so you don't lose money when you have to put these things back up on Reverb and be frustrated and all the time spent. So if you have any questions about particular reverbs and what works, from my experience, I'll ask my friends too. Every time you all post a question below, I'll toss it around to all my other friends and ask them what they think, and we'll respond and let you know. And if there's anything else you want to know about in the future, let us know. We're doctors. All right. Talk to you next time. Peace.